China's a surveillance state. Is it appropriate for President Trump to be saying China should look into the Biden family? Is that appropriate?
Look, of course not. Elections in the U.S. should be decided by Americans, and it's not the business of foreign countries, any foreign countries, to be interfering in our elections.
Did he really just say what I think he said? Texas Senator Ted Cruz appeared on Disgraced Nation on Sunday, and he was asked the question about the fact that China and the trade deals going on with the Trump administration, and apparently Ted Cruz is over there himself now, and he's, standing with the students who are protesting for freedom, and they talked about the NBA kowtowing and backing down because they were going to lose all kinds of money and deals if they supported the students. And then the reporter asks, okay, China is a surveillance state. Is President Trump wrong to ask China to investigate Joe Biden? And Ted Cruz, either he didn't understand the question or he purposely misdirects the answer, says, well, of course we should not allow China to interfere in U.S. elections. That ought to be decided by the people. Let me just respond to that in an articulate, well-educated manner. Well, duh! Of course Americans should decide American elections. That's not the question you were asked. You purposely took her question, which was about China investigating any shady business dealings that the Bidens were involved in that country, and the president saying you really ought to look into that, and you twisted it to fit the lying legacy, corporate, corrupt, mainstream media mantra and narrative that Trump is doing all of this to take out his political opponents. That is what she was asking, either because she didn't get around to it yet, or she didn't think that was the setup to ask that question. She was asking an honest question. Should the president, is within his constitutional designated authority, to ask a nation to look into the possible criminal activity of an American in their country? And what does Ted Cruz do? He flips it to fit the narrative that's being used to spawn the fake impeachment, witch hunt, and phony impeachment inquiry. Old dogs just can't learn new tricks, and Lyin Ted Cruz just can't help himself.
China's a surveillance state. Is it appropriate for President Trump to be saying China should look into the Biden family? Is that appropriate?
Look, of course not. Elections in the U.S. should be decided by Americans, and it's not the business of foreign countries, any foreign countries, to be interfering in our elections.
Even Ukraine? I mean, when you're talking about some of this, I mean, do you think that, say, the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who's been talking about China, who's been talking about Ukraine, do you want to hear him testify about this sort of shadow foreign policy?
Listen, foreign countries should stay out of American elections. That's true for Russia, that's true for Ukraine, that's true for China, that's true for all of them. It should be the American people deciding elections. I don't know what Rudy's been saying. I do know, though, that we should decide our elections. It should be the American people making those decisions.
Again, Teddy, not what you were asked. Is Ukraine within its rights to look into Hunter Biden being involved in criminal activity? Yes. Should they wonder, was there influence peddling going on there by Vice President Biden? Yes. Where's Obama in all this? How could he allow this to go on? And by the way, Ted, to prove the point that Donald Trump is right on this issue, and it definitely strengthens Donald Trump's argument and position, Hunter Biden over the weekend says, hey, if my dad is elected president, I will not serve on the boards for any foreign entities. And he went ahead and resigned a board that he was on in China. Now, why did he do that? To hopefully change the narrative, to get the media, some members of the actual legitimate, honest, journalistic media, who are starting to look at this saying, yeah, even alternative left-wing media, progressive media, is saying, wait a minute, wait, where there's smoke, there's fire. What were the Bidens doing in Ukraine? What was the son involved in and getting $1.5 billion from China? What did go on there? What kind of influence peddling and favors were being done that they should walk out with that kind of money when dad's the VP? And what does GOP Ted Cruz say? Oh, we can't have these foreign entities working on behalf of any political candidate to take out the opposition. Americans decide elections. Not the question, Ted. You purposely twisted that answer. You purposely misled, misdirected. You are as fraudulent as you were during the 2016 primaries. Nothing has changed. You are a total fraud. I thought you were a loser then. I think you're a bigger loser now. And you are of this theocratic mindset. You and your daddy, who went out and hawked you at every church that would give him a platform to talk about you, trying to pass you off as a conservative Christian who shares your faith and values, and you tried to lie and con your way into the Christian voting community that you were the candidate of choice, and many were upset at the way I talked about you. I heard it from pastors and churches all over the country. Pastor Marty, why are you vilifying Ted Cruz? Because he's a villain. And nothing's changed. Your dad believes in a doctrine called replacement theology, which means that you believe that the church has replaced Israel. He also believes in a doctrine called dominion theology, which means Jesus Christ cannot return to this earth until the church, Christians, have taken total domain of the 5 pillars, one of the pillars being government, and that was what you believe was almost your messianic call to be the president. I didn't want Mitt Romney to be president because he felt he was fulfilling some Mormon prophecy about leading the nation. You have some warped biblical view that you were anointed to be the Messiah of America. I don't want any theological nutcases like that. You talk about people that are drunk and delusional on their own self-worth and power. What could be possibly more self-aggrandizing than believing I have been picked by God Almighty? Ted Cruz is a fraud, and he's phony, and he is part of the Bush crime family. That's how he got his start in politics. His wife had a big job protecting all of the billionaire bankers who do business on that southern border. That's why Ted Cruz was big on the Pacific Asian Trade Agreement. He's a one-world guy who knows how to hide it behind that phony Texas drawl and twang, even though he's actually from Canada and really shouldn't even be allowed to be serving in United States Congress, much less running for president. Unbelievable. I thought you made a complete fool of yourself and committed political suicide at President Trump's Republican National Convention in 2017 by not endorsing him. And now, when he's in the fight of his life against phony impeachment, you throw more gas on the fire by insinuating that he is actually trying to take out his political operatives, and he needs to stop that. He just needs to stop that, and the people around him need to stop that. It's a lie. That's not what the president has done. He has asked Ukraine and China to look into criminal activity committed by Americans on their soil. But you understand that, don't you, Ted? But you are one lying, sick opportunist. Well, that's it for this happy rant. Hey, gang, it's good to see you after the weekend. Make sure you are a subscriber to the channel if you're not so already. Give us a thumbs up and a like, and share this video to your social media platforms.